your view, lay that groundwork. What is structure? What are we talking about? What do we expect? What does it look like?
So when I told my parents that I was getting into the music industry, my mother, who today is her birthday as well, cried.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Yes. She felt then, 30 years ago, that the music industry in Jamaica had no structure. And it's unfortunate that I'm going to say this on this panel today, with all due respect to all my colleagues that have worked so hard. But in 2022, the Jamaican music industry still lacks structure. We need to work together instead of in our separate silos. I mean, there is collaboration, of course, you know, the artists talk and people talk and such, but really and truly we're operating as if we're all in little silos trying to do our best without the support of a true structured industry with good government policies to support us and private sector capital, which I guess Zachary can talk to fund us. So we are doing it on our own, and we've done well, but we could be doing so much better if we had institutional level structure. So when you ask me that question, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but that's how I feel. So let me move on from that, and hopefully the newest member of the panel, as in the person who's bringing the freshest energy, and my other colleagues will have better news than I have.
Zachary, any response to that, your own perspectives of the Jamaican music industry, and responding to what Khaled just pointed out, that, and she's at pains to say it. I can see you didn't really want to go there, Khaled, but here we are.
Yeah. I like thinking happy thoughts, and that's another happy one, eh?
All right, so for the sake of being controversial, which I have no problem with doing it, and for the sake of just having a robust discussion, I am going to posit that structure is not as important as you might think. The reason why I say that is because when you look at a lot of the artists that have made it, for the most part, other than one or few, they're inner city artists who are just talented, who had a passion and a dream and a goal, and who had a voice and they wanted to express what was inside them. And they delivered quality content from the heart. People gravitated towards that, and they grew from there because there was a demand for this energy that people wanted. The structure kind of fell into place-ish after, when one or two family members said, yo, like, I need to run in on this because this man going to bust and make some money. And then he kind of got a little bit of quote unquote structure, forming around it. So I would, there's two sides. I'd say in one way, you don't need structure because sometimes structure kills the creativity. I need structure.
And that is industry-wise, national-wise, nation-wise, you're talking, as opposed to the individual?
No, I'm talking, at this point, I'm talking about the individual artists, right?
Okay.
Yes, you do need structure nation-wise. Again, for the sake of being controversial, big up Babsy, I love you, but I can't really point to anything that any successive government or administration has done to really push and promote dancehall and reggae music. They've been left at sea to forage on their own, and they've done it on their own without the help and support of government. And government uses reggae and uses dancehall when it suits them, and when it doesn't suit them, they blame reggae and they blame dancehall for everything else.
How can, I think I see everybody nodding, and so we're all in agreement on that, so we don't have to go around the table on it. But how then can we, how then does the artist become structured within, for as a recipe for success within that chaos? Because obviously it would appear as if the kind of national support that you would need would not necessarily be there. And I know that I'm asking a question that has many, many answers. I'm going to start with forward on that. But how does the artist become successful in that chaotic situation where there's not necessarily the state support?
Was that directed at me?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just back up by saying that I was listening to Carlette and she's correct. Exactly. What Carlette said is that there's still not enough structure in the industry, and I agree with her. From the legal side, I have seen growth. I remember artists 10 years ago coming to me once in a blue moon to say, I got into this contract, I need to now get out because I didn't read it properly and there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Forward 10 years, I'm now getting people coming to me, much more artists and producers coming to me saying, I have received a contract from a third party. There is no way I'm signing it until I have you look at it. And to me, that alone is a great leap forward in mentality. In terms of structuring, I think that this is where everyone on this panel comes in. It starts first with a microcosm of the artists themselves. Who do they put around them? And again, as others have said, I think it starts with a good manager, because that manager will bring in your lawyer, your publicist, your financial advisor, and so on. So the structure can start there, but I also have to agree with that I haven't seen it on a governmental level where there's been that support for dancehall, reggae, and so on, except for the purpose of jingles, political jingles, getting support in small ways. And when things are really bad, they may say, okay, we're going to give you a handout of X so that you can improve during this bad time. From a legal perspective, one of the initiatives, and a governmental perspective, one of the initiatives that I wanted to speak about was the fact that instead of giving handouts, if the government would create a fund, and that fund would be able to fund accountants and lawyers to take action against international infringers, then they could always get that money back once the case is good. Once there's merit to the case, it would allow those artists, those producers to be funded by the government to be able to pay international lawyers, local lawyers, international accountants, to be able to audit record labels and take action against them, because we're getting a lot of infringements overseas. And the biggest barrier that I have seen is that these artists and writers don't have the money to hire big time international lawyers. So if the government would pay the hand in funding that, I think we knew that can be collected for artists and bring it back into the country. But there does need to be more structure, and we have to discuss the different ways to do it.
Zachary, you just did a thumbs up there to that. You're in total agreement with that.
Yeah, total agreement. I mean, government's role should not be to monitor creative content, right? If they're going to facilitate, they can help with playing a role in their lane, which, as Ron said, is, maybe put together a fund. It doesn't have to be a crazy amount of money. You could have a relatively small fund, just making up a number with a team of 5 experts. And those experts could then guide and maybe even have other apprentices, if you will, younger lawyers, younger accountants, etc., coming up, that they could instruct them and they could play a role to support artists in protecting their intellectual property rights overseas. One of the things that I always one of the things that I always look at it, and I know this is like a whole other debate and we're not going to go down there, but why is it that a James Bond movie will come to Jamaica, be filmed in Jamaica, be supported by government, show shooting and killing and violence, and it plays in the cinema, and members of parliament and ministers go and watch it and enjoy it, and it's content, it's entertainment, but a man sing a one Clash song that sound like a little, gunman shift, and all of a problem, it's like all of a sudden it's like a major problem, and dancehall is the the source of crime in the country. Those are things we really have to look at.
I think that's a brilliant point that you have made, and Danny Barnes, you just agreed with that. I want you to respond to that, but also to respond to talk a little bit about your own experience in terms of the artist understanding the process, understanding the need for legal services, understanding the need to understand the principles governing and regulating the industry, and how you managed that as a team. But first of all, respond to Zachary.
Yes, thanks again. Well, I'm in agreement with everything that Carlet said as well, in terms of everything starts mostly with like friends, you know, our associates getting together and creating freely, because they, you know, they're not thinking about the other aspects of legal, you know, legal advice or those things in the studio, you know, because when I'm thinking about it, just today I was at the studio with this young artist, and I'm not sure how he ended up there, but when he got there, he asked me, "Hey, I want to have our talk today, you know. How you do it with Chronix?" And that was the first question. I was like shocked, because everybody look at this young artist as, or maybe he's an influence to the, maybe, I'm not sure, but he's very influential to the younger kids now, you know, because he's very young. So when I heard the question, I told him, you need to structure your thing, because look around you, all I see is just virgins, you know, but who are here actually have the first or slightest knowledge of assisting you to get a good lawyer, a good accountant to help you with your finances, so that everything is not just dumb money and cash and putting it wherever they put it, you know. But it's just for them to find the right channels early, because I was advised from early that you eye them cross your T-bonds, or you're bridging this, you know? Don't just go into this thing with friend and say, you know what I mean? So I was always on the verge of getting things in black and white from early, you know, how we'll work, how we'll share whatever, you know, expenses, who pays what. First of all, as a manager, I need to have that clear with the artist, because the lifestyles can get wild sometimes, especially in terms of studio or production. And then, you know, they expect the managers to pay that, when better in it fact is a label, then a label should be paying that. So if they are independent or signed, they need to have that wholesome ecosystem that's around them that can just support them in those areas, you know. And in terms of legal or for to choosing a lawyer, you need to know where you operate, because there are systems in place. If you think about the diaspora, Florida, the New Yorks, the Atlantas, go straight to UK and to Kenya, Africa, wherever, the Caribbean, in a sense. We can just think about it as structures there, systems are there, but nothing, I would say, is here locally that is in place to say, how do we govern our music? In terms, you know, as artists, the younger artists, they are just learning about masters now, so everybody's now negotiating with producers about splits and stuff. But then, as I saw how it was, a virgin just got to the studio, he gets paid, he gets bought out, or he accepts a buyout, and then he moves on, you know, to the next producer, accept a next buyout, move on. 10 years later, publishing is a main stream of income for artists. When they check all the contracts, they are all buyout contracts instead of, you know, artists are side artist agreements. So it's just very important, you know, to gain the knowledge or have the right, I would say, even if it's a friend in the start, to just get you to the right people, or put the right people in that circle, so that you can benefit. For one, not paying the lawyer to clear some infringement, but to just to get him on a retainer to protect your best interests.
If I may just jump in to say something, hats off to someone like you and Simpson, who has very competently spearheaded, for example, Jerry.
Hats on in this case.
Yeah, or hats on as the case may be. But one of the other issues, just to follow on from what Daddy Man was saying, is that there hasn't been that much unity in terms of creating effective lobbying organizations and reggae-based organizations in Jamaica. There have been so many that have started and either disappeared or whittled down to nothing, or effectively do very little. And I think we have to find a way for industry players not to just throw up another entity here and there and to have 30 different reggae industries, but to find a way to come together and create one cohesive lobbying organization to lobby the government for better policies that will positively affect the entertainment industry. That's my two cents.
All right, some really, really great points and issues being raised in the space. We're going to cool ourselves down a little with Kiswani, and I understand that he's all queued and ready to go. It's the entertainment for today. We'll come right forward to the discussions, the conversation after we hear from Kiswani.
pieces, and I know it's hard for you to trust someone you barely know, baby. You gotta open up to me. Let me prove to you that I'm the one you're truly looking for. Every morning I wake up with a smile upon my face. Oh, looking at you, I know it's crazy, but in my eyes, girl, you amaze me. Your attributes and those thighs got me singing, oh my, my. So should I stay or should I go? Baby, please tell me, cause I don't know, baby. You got my heart in pieces, and I know it's hard for you to trust someone you barely know, baby. You gotta open up to me. Let me prove to you that I'm the one you're truly looking for. Now when I see your face, I see all the hurt and the pain down deep inside. If it wasn't insecurities, I see them all, and I wonder why I tried to hide. You are beautiful and you need to know that everything's alright. You're my baby, one and only, oh, 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 baby. You got my heart in pieces, and I know it's hard for you to trust someone you barely know, baby. You gotta open up to me. Let me prove to you that I'm the one you're truly looking for. Oh, 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 oh. Open your eyes. Why don't you realize that I may be the one that you need? Baby, please look to the light and the answer you find, baby. You got my heart in pieces, and I know it's hard for you to trust someone you barely know, baby. You gotta open up to me. Let me prove to you that I'm the one you're truly looking for, baby. Oh, hey, oh, 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 baby, please come back to me, baby. Baby, please, oh, 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 baby. You got my heart in pieces, and I know it's hard for you to trust someone you barely know, baby. You gotta open up to me. Let me prove to you that I'm the one you're truly looking for, baby. You got my heart in pieces, and I know it's hard for you to trust someone you barely know, baby. You gotta open up to me. Let me prove to you that I'm the one you're truly looking for. Oh.
Wow, 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 beautiful. Love that one. Love that one from Kizwane. Baby, you've got my heart in pieces. The title of the song, they tell me, is that it's called Unity, but I think it's Baby, You've Got My Heart in Pieces. let me prove to you. Well, you're inside of the Reggae Open University's celebrating Route 77. Bob Marley's 77th birthday. This is produced by the Bob Marley Group of Companies and the Jamaica Reggae Industry Association. This is in partnership with the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, and of course with IRI FM. We're looking at the topic, to structure or not to structure. We have heard so far, you know, the industry practitioners giving their perspectives on this. I want to go now to financing as part of creating, of choosing structure as a recipe for success. What can we learn from the most successful artists for example, when it comes to the financial market? What should artists be mindful of? And can I start with you on that, Khaled?
Sure, but for that one, I really want to hear what Zachary has to say. It is certainly challenging for artists to find financing. As Zachary mentioned, you know, and as Daddy Byron said, a lot of it is you just roll up into the studio and create some great music from your heart, and it explodes, and that's wonderful. But before you get to that point, who's going to pay for the studio time, and how are you going to fund that? How are you going to, even though we're primarily streaming based now, we still do CDs and in some markets vinyl, and how do you fund all of that? You know, so I'm really curious to know how Zachary feels. And then, as Ron alluded to, and I think it's very important, it's great to make money, it's better to keep money. So how is it that we put financial protections in place for our artists? So I'd really prefer to hear from Zachary. All
right, so we're going to throw it to Zachary, but just before we throw it to Zachary, so we announced just now the song and the song title, and Khaled must be saying, oh no, but that's Leopold. You must have been saying that, Khaled. No, that's Leopold. All right, so that was Leopold, and the song was titled Pieces. Brilliant song, Leopold, brilliant song. All right, Zachary, I throw the question of financing to you.
Sure. So first of all, there's two components to it. One is this is a business. So we have to accept and realize that this is the music business. So there is a component of structure that is necessary on the business side of things in order to make sure that the finances can be managed properly. But on the other side of it, the focal point of what we're talking about is an artist. And by definition, that is a creative person who is creating art. So the movie logline always goes like this. I'm a wicked singer. I have a dream and I have a passion. I have a message that I need to bring to the world, but I don't have the money. So I need Scarlett to sponsor me so I can realize my vision. No different than saying, you know what, I want to be a professional football player, but I don't have the money and I can't survive just by going and playing Premier League. So I need somebody to invest in me to help me to become, you know, a revenue generating income stream. In order to do that, the artist therefore needs to prove that they have the ability to earn. Because looking at it now from my private equity, you know, investor finance hat, I can't just get up and say, I'm just going to sponsor you on for the sake of it. I have to believe in you on, or believe that he's going to make a return on my investment. That's a part that's really missing, because a lot of people don't look at it like, okay, if you were to invest $50,000 US in me, here is how I can pay you back. I'm going to use that. I'm going to spend 20 grand, go in studio, I'm going to make 5 singles. I'm going to do my promos. I'm going to shoot some music videos. I'm going to get my YouTube and Twitter, my socials up. And I have some bookings that I've lined up. And then I'm going to get 10 bookings and go on tour Europe and Africa out of this. But I'm going to charge 20 grand per booking. That's $200,000, but it's going to cost me 10 grand per booking to go. So I'm going to net $100,000. And therefore I can pay you back your $50,000 plus a 20% return and still keep some money for myself. That is a type of argument and discussion that we need to be having, because without that, it's called gambling and it's called philanthropy. And you're basically being a philanthropist and just giving money to somebody because you want to support them. And that's not the business component of the music industry. So you do have to have some, you know, a bit of a plan and a strategy around that.
Where is there?
Sorry, if I may add to that very briefly. Zachary
yes,
is 100% right. And one of the challenges that are faced is that the creatives do not have the, for lack of a better word, the structure to put forth a proposal to equity financiers. And so they need a good manager who can do it. And if the manager is a sister, a friend who's trustworthy but not competent, you need to find someone who can, right? So this is why, from my perspective, as much as there is a vibe, and I would be the first one to say vibe is the most important component. After that, you need structure.
And I just want to add on to that before you come back in, right? So Carlet is correct. And I want to just switch the verbiage a little bit away from structure to management.
Yes.
Right. So one of the greatest artist managers of our time is this brother named Jeremy Harding. Right. I think I'm related to him. That's what my parents told me, but I wasn't there when the event happened. So but in terms of being a manager, he's just one of the greatest managers of all time. He managed Sean Paul. I signed Sean initially and I managed him initially, but then I went on to work in corporate. Jeremy took Sean and managed Sean rather into what he became. Carlet was a part of that team. Carlet was with Headline and they handle all the PR and all the booking for Sean. So that administrative managerial structure has to complement the natural raw talent of the artist, because it took a mind like Jeremy, who also happens to be a dope ass producer, but it took a mind like him to be able to structure the business components and say, no, here are the business decisions that we need to make. This is when the album needs to be put out. This is how much we're going to spend to produce this. This is what we're not going to spend money on. This is a deal that we're going to sign. This is what we're not going to sign. And those business management components are what make and create superstars.
Mm-hmm. There was a time when management and artist management, and these are the days when you know, college, we used to talk more often and work together, as I'm in the media and you in the business of management. And it's but I remember I was doing the entertainment programs here at IRFM. I remember when the artists started talking about, I don't need a manager. I'm sure you remember that. That was in the late 90s, was it? Just what, or mid 90s, when the artists started recognizing that they did not necessarily need a manager. But we seem to be at a place now where those decisions obviously would have been wrong decisions, but they worked for some artists, didn't they? But here we are. They didn't? College, you're saying no?
No, I'm saying no. I say it seemed to work for a short period of time, but 5 years or 10 years down the line, when you got no money because you didn't have a manager to defend it or an attorney to make sure it was there. And I think that movement that I don't need a manager, I can manage myself and such, came out of the fact that unfortunately, many, not all, many, some managers either were not competent to the position and did not say to themselves, listen, I know you trust me, but let me bring in this person to support. Let me hire this person to augment the team, build the team, scale up the team. Or worse, they were stealing from the artists. Because let us be real, back in the day, a lot of the managers weren't in the music business to help artists or to build a business. They were there to clean other things, yeah. So right then and there, a lot of artists found themselves being shafted, being stolen from, and such. And so the natural responses are, I'll do it myself. But no, it does not work. An artist, in my mind, and some artists are very savvy and can definitely be more involved, but artists need management. Full stop.
Yeah. What were some of the legal issues? Yes, go ahead, Ronald, because I was actually just coming to you. Just remember what you were going to say, and then out of all of that situation where artists are managing themselves and doing everything, what are some of the legal issues that you saw arising from this? But go ahead.
I mean, there would be numerous, not understanding contracts, not being able to understand the income streams that are, or to understand the meaning of royalties and how royalties work. Whether it's a synchronization license they're getting versus a mechanical license. There are technical terms within the music industry that if you are coming in for the first time, you're just not going to understand. You may be exceedingly talented, but you're not going to understand when you look at a contract and think that you're signing on because you see a figure, for example. I'll give you a perfect example. A lot of artists, especially back in the day, will look at a contract and they see an advance of 10,000 US. And they're like, yeah, man, this is it. I've got it made in the shade. And then they don't look at the fact that these advances are recoupable by the record labels from royalties, and that there are all these deductions from royalties that you're going to make, that sometimes you end up with little and nothing at the end of the day, and all your money is taken back through a contract that is not in your favor. And so going in blind, going in without a manager, a good manager, to say, hey, you're singing gunman tune, but you're a pretty boy and you have a good voice. Maybe you should be singing girl songs. You know what I mean? These are things that good managers are supposed to do and structure. I want to take it back one step further in relation to what Zachary and Carlette were saying. I look at Jamaican artists as NBA, and not as basketball players, exceedingly talented basketball players. Jamaica has the most talented musicians, artists, writers in the world. But to get into the NBA, only a few people reach that stage. Many talented, but only few reach to the top. And reaching to the top is a combination of having talent, working exceedingly hard, understanding how to take management and direction to listen to people. And also you have to ask, I think for managers, and I ask artists this very often, what is success to you? Because success to one artist may be, I want to be on the #1 Billboard charts internationally. And I need you, Zachary, and you, Carlette, and you, Daddy Barnes, or whoever else, to get me there. And another artist is happy if their song plays on a local radio, and they can and they have two singles out, and they can go to their neighborhood and say, hey, I'm an artist. And so you have to decide as a manager or as a financial advisor, who are you going to take off? Because not everybody wants what you think they do. And so that's also important.
And as my brother Jeremy always said, because I'd got to him and be like, yo, I just voice it up with this artist, and bad, yo, the youth lyrically gifted, and he'd be like, exactly. This is not a talent show. This is not a talent contest. Right?
And in fact, I read something that Jeremy wrote very keenly when he was talking just about that people, what some dancehall and reggae artists consider success, is not success if you're talking about it from a financial and an international and making a mark on the world level. That doesn't mean that it's not success to them, because they can pop champagne one evening at a party. But what is success for you? And if you want international success, you're going to have to do a lot different things than just being a local artist. You're going to have to listen more. You're going to have to learn more.
Let me bring in Daddy Barnes here, because he's an artist who was got international success. And obviously, so he would be able, I think he's rightly placed to help us to understand what is it that so many of our artists are missing, or what it is that we are missing in this space.
Exposure. Exposure meaning, don't wait until the artist is on a certain level to expose them to the markets. You need to get him out there, because times change. We spend on promotion, because we're our own label. So if we need to get something done in New York, we have to head to New York. Even if, well, now you can do things on Zoom, but still you need to connect with the markets and be on the ground. And what I found about a lot of young talents, they don't know how to acquire the right paperwork just to leave the island for a promotional trip. So they always wait on a booking, and that's not necessary. You can get a visitor's visa to have a meeting with a record label, with an agency, a CAAR, who, anybody who they want to work with in America. And also just to go out there and get the exposure, and also figure out how to align those new partners with your team that you're working with. So
add something to that when that is
yes.
Critical component to that, what he's talking about, is really building a brand. Right?
Building a brand, yeah.
Building your brand. Yes. Because you want to build and create a brand and then expose that brand so that you are attracting the right audience and the right interest, right? So you don't want to have exposure if it's a wrong exposure. You can't be trying to, as Ron is saying, like go after like a hardcore gunman market, but you're like a real sweet boy with like a high-pitched voice, No offense to Chris Martin, because Chris Martin is a singer, but
Yeah.
Chris Martin wouldn't really do so well on a gunman tune with Skeng, right?
I agree.
So you have to make sure that you're building your brand and that your brand is authentic and it's also synergistic with what it is that your creative content is that you're putting out, and that you can
So do you
back
need
that up
assistance?
and
Sorry
defend that
to
in a way
interrupt.
that.
Sorry to interrupt, Zachary, but then do you need assistance with this building of the brand, and what kind of assistance?
Yes, that's where the management comes in.
Yes.
That is what Barnes spends a lot of time doing. People might not see it, but he's selecting and saying, no, Chronics, we can't go to that show in Toronto with that LGBT thing, because that's going to cause problems.
No,
We have to go on this show here, or
Yes.
whatever decisions that he's making along the way. He's also trying to make sure that the image is maintained. All right, I have 3 songs that I've written. All right, cool. Let me listen to them. Yo, this one right now, I don't think that this one going to catch right now, but because of where we are now politically, this one now would, get more attention, and it's going to keep you in line with what it is that you've been preaching, and it's consistent with what you've been saying. So he's part of his role is to be building that brand.
So what does it take then, Daddy Barnes? Because does it mean then that the artist has to have trust in the manager, but also a particular type of personality? What happens to ego in that situation?
Well, ego is there and thing, but what they need to do is just ensure that their creative plan is being executed with the manager, and also just for me, being a manager is also just keeping the wheels turning, in the right motion. So definitely.
Khaled, we're getting from Jeannie Sweetness on YouTube, says there needs to be management classes in 2022.
I agree. Or just
Yes,
sessions.
yes. Absolutely. What has been happening so far in the absence of structure, in the absence of a school dedicated to this locally, is that we have formed alliances, right? I can pick up the phone and call Zachary and ask him a question. I can go outside and make a U-turn and ask one a question. I alluded to a joke about you and I having our 5 a.m. conversations, where he provides guidance and such. What we do is teach each other, elder to young and to elder and such, in a very informal way, which, like we said, has served us well so far. But without a doubt, I do believe that there should be, and there are programs, without a doubt. Endermanley does have an arts management program, and I have been able to participate in that program. But we need to have that real world experience, and we need to have the benefit of policy in the public sector, as well as support from the private sector to make it happen. It's all well and good that you go to school and you read in a book that this is how it should be, and then you hit the road and you run into a visa issue because you didn't know that you needed this document, or you didn't know that you have to run down this, and then you have to beg for help, as opposed to having that structure be available to you in school, or that structure be available to you from a government policy supported lobby organization. We just need that.
So this takes us right back to where we started, which is what's happening in the nation. What is the nation state doing in terms of a structure? And I think the Ministry of Culture is one of the facilitators of the discussion this evening. I'm sure they're hearing there's so much work to do. I want to talk about contracts. We're getting lots of comments online and from the different platforms and so on, but I really don't want to go into those before we talk about contracts and the importance of understanding what you're getting into, the need for legal advice. Let me just throw it right around. I see you call it on contracts, the different types of contracts, because they are, and especially, Ronald, within the digital age.
Okay, sure. So I don't know if Carlet wanted to add something before.
So I wanted to add a question, which is, if I'm a young artist and I'm not yet in a position to have a retainer, which is really the best way, what are my options? So that's it.
Okay. Well, I mean, the truth is I've been involved in the entertainment industry since the age of 17, before I even became an attorney. As Carlet mentioned, doing events, and as Zachary mentioned, doing events and getting, so I'm very ingrained in it. And so I understand how the industry works. So as an attorney, I don't deal with fees in the same way that I do with other types of clients. There's a lot more flexibility there because I understand how artists earn money. And so sometimes you work with artists that you believe in, knowing that at some point they'll be in a position to get back to you. So back to the question about contracts, very, very crucial. One of the things that I think we were either talking about or needs to be hit on is the 360 contract, right? And we could probably start there. So basically, historically, artists would sign a management deal with one person, a publishing deal with another person, a booking agreement with another, a record deal with another, sponsorship and merchandising with yet another. What a 360 deal does is it's usually one company that is signing you, the artist, and providing all of those services. And it's a good segue into the pitfalls and the benefits of these types of contracts in general. One of the benefits is that when you have a 360 deal, you as an artist, you have less people to deal with. You can just deal with this one entity who's doing your booking and your management and so on. And so if you have any issues, you usually have one point of contact. It's a little tidier. And of course, you only have one entity that's accounting to you for monies that are earned. So it may cause less confusion there. But there are downfalls to that 360 deal. One of them is that you're dealing with only one entity. So if that entity is either unscrupulous, bad at their job, unliked, then you're stuck in a contract with a horrible company that you're doing business with, and that can lead to your career going absolutely nowhere. The other thing is, very often in these 360 contracts, there's what you call cannibalization of income. That means that sometimes someone would take, for example, your performance income when you go on stage and perform. That entity would take 20% management fee from you for your performance, but they may also take a 15% booking fee from you for the same performance. And so you have to ensure
10%, 10%, no more than 10%.
And so you have to ensure, one of the jobs that I have is to ensure that these contracts are fair to the artist, that their money is not being cannibalized. And of course, in these deals, sometimes the companies are good at some things, they're great at being a record label, but they're horrible at being a booking agent. And so what it really looks at, one of the things that if I may, I use 5 points when looking at all contracts that I think are important points. And if I may just quickly tell you those 5 points.
Yes.
I think Charlotte would have benefit. So number 1 is bargaining power. When you're entering into a contract negotiation, you need to understand what is your level of bargaining power. For example, when I'm negotiating a deal for popcorn, I know that I have a stronger bargaining power in certain things than if I'm negotiating on behalf of a brand new artist who's just on the scene. And I have to appreciate that in how I go about it. Number 2, an accounting